The old woman had just passed away. As a result, when she opened her eyes, she discovered that she had become young again. Before she could even understand what was happening, an even greater joy appeared. Seeing her husband, who had already died, she finally realized that she herself had also died. Regarding her husband's death, it had always weighed heavily on her heart. Now, she could finally say everything she had kept inside. When she was alive, Joan had always wanted to go to the sea and climb the mountains. As soon as she mentioned this, her attention was immediately diverted. Larry secretly felt pleased and eagerly began sharing what he had seen over the past few days. This place was called the Eternal Station. After death, everyone had to pass through here before going on to other worlds to live. Each world had its own unique theme. For example, a scenic world filled only with sunshine and beaches. A world where people don't have to wear clothes. A world where everyone is forever in high school. A medical world where you can become a doctor without studying medicine. A world of only women, free from having to endure men. In short, anything you can imagine exists here. As Joan was dreaming about her happy future life, a sudden shock struck her. The handsome man who had just appeared was Luke, Joan's first husband. He was a soldier who had died on the Korean peninsula decades ago. Logically, after death, each person was only allowed to stay at the Eternal Station for 7 days. After 7 days, they were required to move on to another world. But in order to wait for his wife, Luke had found a job here and worked tirelessly for 67 years. This kind of devoted love was truly touching to the heavens. Joan was moved to tears, gazing at the handsome man before her. Luke also looked at her gently. However, one ill-timed sentence pulled her out of the romance and back to reality. One man had been by her side for half a century, while the other had waited for her for half a century. Both men loved her deeply, and were now standing beside her. It was truly overwhelming happiness. But the problem was that they had appeared at the same time. At this point, the only option was to return to her room first. Although avoiding the situation felt a bit shameful, it was at least effective. But just after she finished changing her clothes, Luke arrived. The two of them went for a walk together, reminiscing about the past. Luke was not only handsome, but also very charming, and knew how to flirt. Before long, they had rediscovered the feelings they once had. But at the final moment, Larry's image suddenly appeared in Joan's mind. She immediately felt guilty and hurriedly left. While his wife was out on a date with someone else, Larry was discussing with the coordinator how to win back his true love. But no matter how much they talked, they couldn't figure out how Luke could lose. He was more handsome, and his story was more touching. Most dangerously, he existed in Joan's memories, and people tend to idealize memories. Larry suddenly came up with the idea of appealing to emotions. For example, their 65-year marriage, their large family with children and grandchildren. But the idea was immediately ridiculed. In the end, Larry decided not to use tricks. He chose sincerity. He went straight to Joan's room and got straight to the point. He had selected a few good worlds and asked Joan which one she wanted to go to. As soon as she heard this, Joan's blood pressure shot up. She had just arrived, hadn't even figured things out yet, and was already being forced to choose between 2 husbands, and even decide within a week which world to go to. Hearing this, Larry also felt it made sense. He gently suggested they talk about it again tomorrow. Then, very naturally, he lay down on the bed, only to be immediately kicked out. He felt hurt. They had shared the same bed for decades, yet just because Luke had appeared, his wife no longer allowed him to sleep beside her. Larry could clearly feel the danger approaching. It seemed he would have to come up with some kind of plan. Anyway, from the past until now, tricks have always been the easiest way to make people fall for them. Having lived together for so long, Larry understood Joan's preferences very well. He went to find a singer that his wife loved the most, preparing to create a surprise to win back her love. At first, everything went very smoothly. Joan brushed away her gloom, sipping a little wine while listening to music. The atmosphere was extremely pleasant. But Larry did not expect that the singer he invited was only an imitator, and moreover, an alcoholic. Before long, his true nature was revealed. He kept clinging to Joan, harassing her in every way. At that moment, Larry was arguing with the coordinator, asking why they had found such a terrible person, so he didn't pay attention to what was happening on Joan's side. Luckily, Luke appeared in time and put an end to the chaos. Seeing that scene, Larry felt as if the sky had collapsed. He was the one who invited that person, yet things turned out like this. Worse still, he had unintentionally helped his rival score points, giving Luke the chance to play the hero and save the beauty. Larry hurried over to explain. Taking advantage of the situation, Luke brought out a bouquet of flowers, wanting to seize the opportunity to win Joan's heart. The 2 coordinators also stood nearby, adding their comments. The whole scene became extremely chaotic. The argument became so intense that Joan felt like her head was about to explode. She called the coordinator inside and vented all her anger. Seeing Joan collapse like this, the coordinator couldn't bear it, so he requested a new solution from his superior. According to the rules, each person only had 1 chance to choose a world. But due to the special situation, the superior approved 2 trial opportunities. Joan could go with both husbands to the worlds they liked and experience them first. Only after that would she decide whom to choose. If she still couldn't decide, then the 3 of them could even live together. Faced with this proposal, Joan was clearly a bit shaken. But Larry and Luke felt uncomfortable just looking at each other. Obviously, neither of them was satisfied with this arrangement. The 2 tossed a coin to decide who would go first. Luke was luckier and got to take Joan first. This world had breathtaking scenery and fresh air. It was even more beautiful than anything Joan had imagined. Not to mention, she had a handsome man by her side. The two strolled among the mountains, rediscovering the passionate feelings of their youth. But in the evening, as they sat by the campfire, Joan saw a child. She unconsciously mentioned her daughter and granddaughter. That made Luke feel awkward. Sensing the atmosphere turning uneasy, Luke took Joan to the memory archive. Here, people could see the most profound memories of their lives. Step by step, they moved forward. Beautiful scenes appeared one after another, from when they fell in love to when they got married, as if they were reliving everything once again. The distance between them gradually disappeared, but at the final scene, something still went wrong. It was the last time they met in the real world. As they painfully said goodbye at the harbor, the scene suddenly changed. It was still that same harbor. Joan stood there as usual, waiting and longing for Luke. But Larry suddenly appeared and proposed to Joan. Luke's emotions instantly collapsed. He believed that Larry had taken advantage of Joan's vulnerability, exploiting her pain and loneliness, relying on it to win her over. Joan hurriedly explained that Larry was not that kind of person, but Luke didn't believe her. He wanted to go back and confront Larry. Meanwhile, on Larry's side, everything was in complete chaos. His wife was dating Luke, while he kept thinking but couldn't come up with any solution. The coordinator gave a suggestion. He wasn't handsome, nor particularly interesting. Yet Joan had been able to live with him for 65 years. There must be a reason. As long as he could find out why she had fallen in love with him back then, he would still have a chance. But those words only made Larry feel even more discouraged. Because even he himself didn't know why Joan had loved him. But then, he suddenly thought of someone, his neighbor Karen, who had also recently passed away. Perhaps Karen would know the reason. The moment the door opened, Larry was stunned. Logically, after death, people would become the happiest version of themselves. But Karen was still as old as she had been in life. Karen showed a look of disgust and said that her husband had been a very good man. But it wasn't until he died that she realized the person she truly liked was women. In short, during the last 3 months of her life, she became a lesbian, and for the first time in her life, she felt an unprecedented happiness. Unfortunately, the time was too short. So she decided to go to the Paris world to truly enjoy her afterlife. She even comforted Larry, telling him not to always look so gloomy. After all, he was already dead. The worst had already happened. So what else was there that he couldn't overcome? Seeing that the conversation was going too far off track, Larry quickly interrupted. He said he came today to ask whether Joan had ever said why she loved him. After hearing Karen's answer, Larry felt even more uncomfortable. He thought Karen couldn't find anything good about him, so she just said those things to brush him off. If he couldn't find the reason why his wife loved him, then he would try to find out why she might dislike Luke. He sneaked into Luke's room. There, he found a pile of phone numbers of various women, along with many photos of beautiful women. These things could prove that over the years, Luke had not been lonely at all. Perhaps he had been involved with quite a few women. Larry continued searching. But when he saw a photo of Luke with Joan, he suddenly felt that what he was doing was somewhat despicable. Just as he was about to leave, he ran into Luke at the door. Luke had originally planned to find Larry to confront him about taking advantage of someone's vulnerability. Now he discovered that Larry was rummaging through his room. His anger instantly erupted. Luke scolded Larry as a despicable petty man who only knew how to use dirty tricks. Larry had already felt embarrassed, but hearing this made him angry as well. Just as the two were arguing, a letter fell to the ground. It was the letter Larry had once written to Joan. The next day, it was Larry's turn to take Joan to experience a world. Knowing that his wife loved the sea the most, he deliberately chose a sunny beach world. But unexpectedly, this place was too popular. It was so crowded that they could hardly find a spot. The two of them sunbathed while chatting. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Just as they were about to kiss, a ball suddenly flew over. Larry glared irritably at the mischievous children. Then he took his wife onto a boat. The two lay relaxed on the deck, talking about old memories. For example, who cried the most at the funeral, how the children were doing now. In the end, they couldn't avoid the important question, whom Joan wanted to choose and which world she wanted to go to. Joan hesitantly said that not being able to build a family with Luke was also something she deeply regretted. After all, Luke had waited for her for 67 years. She truly couldn't bear to hurt him again. Hearing this, Larry immediately felt something was wrong. It seemed that his wife was leaning toward Luke. The atmosphere instantly became heavy. Joan said it was late and that they should go back. But the blow came very quickly. As soon as they returned, Luke immediately caused trouble. Joan saw the letter and became extremely angry. She believed that Larry had deceived her. Larry hurriedly explained. At first, he had planned to find an eternal world in advance and prepare everything to welcome Joan. That was why he left the letter. But he didn't expect the plan to change. Just as he was about to leave, Joan suddenly appeared. Larry thought he had done nothing wrong. But Joan accused him of being too selfish. Larry also lost his temper, saying that Joan was the selfish one. She stood in the middle of a group of men to choose from. He even said that she must have secretly slept with Luke behind his back. Hearing this, Joan was so furious she felt like exploding. The two of them used the most hurtful words to attack each other. regardless of the fact that those words might never be taken back. After calming down and thinking it through, Larry still felt that his wife was more important than anything. He immediately turned to criticize Luke, saying that over the years he had not been faithful either, occasionally getting involved with other women. Luke admitted it frankly. He said that fooling around over the past 60 years was true, but waiting for Joan for 60 years was also true. Joan showed some understanding. After all, no one could endure loneliness for that long. Joan said, "This isn't a competition. Why are you deducting points?" But the two men disagreed. They said in unison, "This is exactly a competition." And this time, they even stood on the same side, demanding that Joan make a decision quickly. This game was truly not something meant for humans. Joan was pushed to her limit and said she needed time to calm down. At that moment, the elderly neighbor appeared. Facing this outsider, Joan opened up and talked for a long time. Joan felt that no matter whom she chose, the other person would suffer for the rest of their life. That put her under immense pressure. The neighbor advised her that she didn't need to live for anyone else anymore. She should think for herself. Maybe starting over from the beginning would be best for everyone. Meanwhile, on the other side, Larry and Luke were sitting together drinking. Over the past few days, they had been fighting for the same goal. From disliking each other, they had now begun to respect one another. Larry said that Luke was truly handsome and also a war hero. Luke, in turn, praised Larry for being intelligent and having a mysterious charm. The next day, Joan sobered up and finally made her decision. If choosing anyone would cause her pain, then she would choose no one. She decided to go with the neighbor to the Paris world. And that was it. No more fighting was needed. The two losers could only comfort each other. Larry said he could never defeat Luke, because no one could compete with a love that had already died and lived on in memory. Luke said that he, on the contrary, envied Larry, because Larry had been able to spend an entire lifetime with Joan and make her so happy. Those words suddenly awakened Larry. When he was alive, he had always tried every way to make Joan happy, because when Joan was happy, he would also be happy. But now, he had forgotten Joan's feelings and was only thinking about how to win. After realizing this, Larry immediately went to find Joan. Larry said to Joan, "You should go with Luke. You deserve a love that intense, a blazing kind of love. I was very, very happy when I was with you. I used to think you were just as happy, but maybe you are happiest when you are with him." Saying it was one thing, but when it actually happened, it was another. Joan left with Luke. Larry felt an immense sense of loss. Even the beach world he had always longed for no longer had any meaning. He decided to stay at the Eternal Station and work. At first, Joan was truly very happy. She had once imagined what life would be like if Luke had not died. Now, this place was even better than she had imagined. Every day they walked through the mountains and forests, traveling everywhere, living a very comfortable life. But in the end, ideals and reality were still different. After some time, Joan realized that she didn't actually like climbing mountains that much, nor did she enjoy socializing with so many people. During quiet nights, she always thought of Larry, so she often went to the memory archive. There, she replayed the memories between her and Larry, from when they fell in love, to marriage, to promotions, and then slowly growing old together. Again and again. Those moments that once seemed ordinary, even trivial and boring, now felt like sharp emotional blades, piercing her heart with pain. The manager advised her that constantly immersing herself in the past was not a good thing. She needed to look forward and keep moving on. Joan agreed outwardly, but in reality, she still went there every single day, just as before. Her nostalgia for Luke gradually turned him into a white moonlight in her heart. Meanwhile, Larry became like a quote, cinnabar mole, an indelible mark that could never be erased from her soul. Gradually, even when she was with Luke, Joan became absent-minded. In the end, she could no longer endure it. Luke had waited for 67 years just to be able to live happily forever with the person he loved in this beautiful world. Yet Joan said that she should not have come here with him. That meant that during all this time, Joan had not been happy. And it also meant that their love might not have been as strong as they had imagined. Their love was a love without the pressure of a mortgage, without work, without children. It was the kind of love before we know what loss is. It was once everything. But the time spent with Luke made Joan realize that love is not just a single moment of happiness. It is made up of countless different moments: joy, sadness, anger, and tears. It includes the burdens of daily life, the trivial matters of living. Two people must grow together and protect each other. Only at this point did Joan realize who was truly the most suitable person for her. Luke thought she had gone mad, because once you choose this world, you can never leave it. If you try to escape, you will be thrown into the void. It is completely silent, with nothing at all, more terrifying than hell itself. Luke tried to persuade Joan to stay. He said they could start over, grow together, and protect each other. The exit was located in the records archive room. Joan held a knife and practiced many times how to snatch the key from the manager's hand. But the more she practiced, the less confident she became. Just as she was about to take the risk, Luke appeared. He decided to help Joan escape. With the cooperation of both of them, Joan managed to get the key. After many difficulties, she finally escaped back to the Eternal Station. Fortunately, with the help of the two coordinators, she avoided disaster. Joan asked Larry, "Now that I've become a wanted person, are you still willing to leave with me? To go to a world where no one can find us?" Eternal Station is a film directed by David Fernley, released in 2025. One of the most heartbreaking parts of the film is Luke's story. He waited for 67 years and finally could live freely with the person he loved in a beautiful world. Yet Joan said she was not happy. Joan said that Luke's love was the love of youth. It was a love without a mortgage, without work, without children. It was the love before people have experienced loss. But the love of adulthood must face mortgages, work, children, illness, and aging. Love is no longer everything, but only a part of life. When you are young, love is greater than everything. Because at that time, you have nothing, so love becomes your entire world. Luke represents pure love, untouched by the trivialities of everyday life. But precisely because it has never been tested by life, it can remain pure. Larry, on the other hand, represents companionship after going through all the burdens of life. The two of them stayed together despite countless mundane struggles. But because it is so ordinary, it doesn't seem romantic enough. You think you are missing someone. But in reality, you are missing your former self, the version of you who once believed that love could overcome everything. But the truth is, after going through so many ups and downs, that person has long since died in the flow of time. Many people say this film is about choosing between the white moonlight and the cinnabar mole. But in my opinion, what the film truly wants to say is, what is real love? Is it Luke, who is willing to wait for you for 67 years without ever changing his heart? Or is it Larry, who is willing to stay by your side for 65 years and overcome everything together? Or is it Joan, who says, "I choose no one. I choose myself"? In my opinion, all of them are, and yet none of them entirely are. True love is the moment when Luke helps Joan escape. True love is when Larry says, "When do we leave? I love you, so I'm willing to wait for you to come back." True love is when Joan finally realizes the person she loves is not the white moonlight, but the one who walked with her through the ordinary struggles of life. You are the one who made me become a better version of myself. That is the gentlest answer about love that Eternal Station wants to convey.